Homage to fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to wisdom warrior Manjushri, homage to all lineage benevolent masters. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in 1,000,000 eons. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, generate supreme bodhicitta. Now we will study the Uncommon Preliminaries in the words of my perfect teacher. The Uncommon Preliminaries are primarily uncommon in several aspects. First, compared to certain meditations in Hinayana, in some Hinayana sutras and treatises, there are also meditations on precious human life, impermanence, karma, and the defects of samsara. But the uncommon practice for all sentient beings taking refuge, generating bodhicitta, accumulating merit, and purifying obscurations, practicing transference, are generally not mentioned in the Hinayana. So these are uncommon practices of Mahayana, Sutrayana, and Tantrayana, we can say so. There is another way. Only in the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, the uncommon preliminaries are emphasized quite extensively. I think they can also be called uncommon preliminaries. Also, the major schools of Tibetan areas, Gelug, Sakya, Kagyu, Jonang, Nyingma, and other major schools all have them. Although they are generally similar, the specific teachings of the lineage masters of each tradition also have some differences in their special methods. So, because they are taught according to the uncommon pith instructions of each major school, they can also be called uncommon preliminaries. Generally speaking, although there are various explanations, Tibetan Buddhism, for example, Sakya and Kagyu schools practice 4 preliminaries, refuge and prostrations, then Vajrasattva and mandala offerings. In some teachings, there is no mention of 100,000 each of bodhicitta and guru yoga. Others, like in some master lineages of the Gelug school, the first 5 uncommon preliminaries are the same, then adding dakini fire offerings and making small Buddha statues, etc. There are also those who say 9 uncommon preliminaries. There are such explanations. There are also some other schools that have 6 preliminaries. There are different explanations, but the general content should be the same. In our Longchen Nyingtik Great Perfection preliminaries, if Guru Yoga is separated, we can say 600,000 preliminaries, 100,000 refuges, 100,000 bodhicitta, 100,000 vajrasattva, 100,000 mandala offerings, plus 100,000 prostrations, and then Guru Yoga. Some masters combine Guru Yoga with refuge and prostrations. There are such practices too. If practice combined with prostrations like this, it also counts as 600,000, because if Guru Yoga is added separately, although Guru Yoga teaches 10 million Padmasambhava mantras, there are also 100,000 Guru Rinpoche mantras included. Therefore, it can also be called 600,000 preliminaries. In terms of general content, there are no significant differences. For all major schools, refuge is also taking refuge in the 3 jewels for all sentient beings. As for bodhicitta, for all sentient beings, as vast as space to attain perfect Buddhahood, generating this intention, accumulating merit, and purifying obscurations are basically the same. It's just that when visualizing the refuge field, the lineage masters in the refuge field are different. When practicing Guru Yoga, the Guru's mantras and prayers are somewhat different. Also with mandala offerings, some schools offer 7 heap mandalas, or 5 heap mandalas, 37 heap mandalas. All have different pith instructions, but actually, whichever school's uncommon preliminaries we practice. If we achieve the realization and standard in our mind stream, they can all be called 500,000 preliminaries. If we haven't achieved the standard in our mind stream, only completing the quantity, no matter which school's preliminaries, they only count as quantity completion, not yet complete in quality. Therefore, when we begin practicing the uncommon preliminaries from now on, we must practice with extra special diligence. We also mentioned before the foundation of the uncommon preliminaries, the 4 types of renunciation mentioned earlier, including relying on spiritual teachers. These 5 instructions are very crucial, and of course this sequence doesn't mean we must complete all the previous ones before practicing the later ones. If so, some with inferior faculties might never master precious human life and would never be able to continue with what follows. Such situations might occur, so it's not like that. Whether it's precious human life, impermanence, or any instruction, practice as much as possible, then when reaching a certain level, continue with the following practices. This sequential approach is particularly important. Today we begin teaching the Uncommon Preliminaries. For myself, I should say, I'm very joyful in my heart. Why? Because now in Han regions, there are many who practice Mahayana Buddhism, many who take refuge, many who generate bodhicitta, and many willing to practice accumulating merit and purifying obscurations. But very few people have truly become merely nominal refugee takers, superficial bodhicitta generators. We can see such people everywhere because the words of my perfect teacher explains things particularly meticulously. If everyone has the opportunity to practice together, more or less, everyone will understand in their mind stream what the content of refuge, bodhicitta, and other uncommon preliminaries is. After knowing, further practicing, and after practicing, this kind of certainty will definitely arise in one's mind stream. This is without doubt. So I think with the blessings of the Guru and 3 jewels, having the opportunity to study together, like this can be said to be extremely precious. Everyone should approach this with a sense of rarity and preciousness because we rely on Dharma, not on persons. If we relied on persons, I know personally I lack merits in all aspects and truly don't possess the qualifications. I'm not being modest. I truly think so in my heart. But the Dharma we are studying together is pure and unstained and can completely benefit our mind streams with different degrees of worldly and transcendent qualities. This is absolute. So I won't obstruct the realization in the mind streams of related Dharma friends. Therefore, as we study the uncommon preliminaries together, everyone must earnestly complete the 600,000 or 500,000 preliminaries. These preliminaries are best completed in terms of quality. If quality completion is truly impossible, according to the requirements of lineage masters, we should be able to complete them in terms of quantity as much as possible. I once heard around 2001 about someone in Nepal called Geshe Lama Konchog from the Gelug school. I saw some introductions about him. He practiced extraordinarily much in his lifetime. He seems to have retreated in the Himalayas for 16 years. At that time, when he first began the local, people didn't know whether he was human or non-human, living with wild beasts, basically similar to Milarepa's biography. But later, for instance, prostrations and bodhicitta, these were all 1.5 million, 1.2 million, all practiced in extraordinarily large quantities. Later, when he passed away, many particularly wonderful relics appeared. I saw photos before. They were truly very rare. Later, many believers from Taiwan, Hong Kong, including Southeast Asian countries, also took refuge in the 3 jewels because of this. So a person's lifetime practice, including the auspicious signs and accomplishment signs after death, are also related when a person truly has a foundation in Dharma, in their mind stream qualities and realizations naturally arise. And with these qualities, countless people cannot help but believe and have faith. So it's connected with our faith and the blessings of the 3 jewels. Everyone must deeply recognize this point. Now we begin teaching the uncommon preliminaries. Everyone should listen to these profound Dharma teachings with joyful hearts. First, the author pays homage to his own lineage root guru in the form of verses through outer refuge, crowning the 3 jewels supreme, through inner refuge, accomplishing the 3 roots. Through secret refuge, manifesting the 3 kayas, at the feet of the peerless Guru I prostrate. Patrul Rinpoche, says his Guru, such as Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu and other lineage masters, possess what kind of qualities? When teaching refuge, he praises the Guru by combining the Guru's qualities with the content of this treatise. That is to say, his Guru, through outer refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, outer refuge, with reverence crowning the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. His Guru through inner refuge has accomplished Guru, Yidam, and Dakini, what we often call the 3 roots. All 3 roots have been Yidam also accomplished, Guru also accomplished, Dakini protectors, etc., all accomplished. What is secret refuge? He has manifested the 3 kayas of Dharma, Sambhoga, and Nirmanakaya. Such a Guru is incomparable in the 3 realms. At the Guru's feet, I respectfully prostrate. At that time, Jetsun Milarepa also said that outer refuge is the three jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Inner refuge is Guru, Yidam, and Dakini. Secret refuge is wind, channels, and essence drops. Ultimate refuge is luminosity, emptiness, and the non-dual Dharma. If we truly take refuge in the three jewels, we should take refuge with our purest and most sincere hearts. Only then can it be considered genuine refuge. It seems this is also mentioned in his collection of songs. Therefore, we should understand here that the author praises his root guru through these inner, outer, and secret aspects, praising his root guru from these three characteristic aspects. Each of us here has different lineage masters. All these masters are merely different in their manifestations. Some masters may appear in different forms, different manifestations. Some appear as scholars, some as ordinary practitioners who have achieved accomplishments. But actually, they are all emanations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This point was already explained in our previous instruction on relying on spiritual teachers. Therefore, everyone should have boundless and impartial faith in all lineage masters. This is very good. I see some monastics and lay practitioners who have joy and reverence toward all masters. This should be very good. Everyone feels very happy in their hearts. We can say they have a kind of joyful heart toward any master. Some attitudes are not like this. They insist on treating their guru as private property. The guru is mine. Then when others generate joy, reverence, and prostrate to him at such times, their hearts continuously generate various conflicts, hatred, jealousy, and other unwholesome mental states. This shouldn't be. We so-called Buddhists consider Buddha Shakyamuni as our Buddha and pray to him or respectfully prostrate. We shouldn't consider Buddha Shakyamuni as our own Buddha and reject all other Buddhists. This is unreasonable. We know the sun and moon in the sky illuminate this entire world. Anyone can generate joy toward their qualities. So any spiritual teacher in our world who is a genuine spiritual teacher, everyone should respectfully rely on and generate joy. I think this is very important. So we should, with our root guru, who has immeasurable Dharma kindness as the main focus toward all lineage masters. And although some haven't transmitted teachings to us, there are many spiritual teachers and great masters in the world. These are all objects worthy of our refuge and prostration. We should revere them with joyful and pure hearts. We should think this way. Now, the uncommon inner preliminaries are divided into 5 first. The foundation of all sacred paths is refuge. Second is entering the supreme Mahayana by generating supreme Bodhicitta. Third is purifying adverse conditions and karmic obscurations through reciting and meditating on Vajrasattva. Fourth is accumulating favorable conditions and merit through mandala, offerings, and kusali practice, which suddenly cuts the 4 maras, that is, accumulating merit. Fifth is the ultimate method for generating wisdom of realization in one's mind stream, which is Guru Yoga. There are 5 instructions in total. Each of these instructions is particularly important for us as practitioners. First, we'll teach about refuge, the foundation of refuge, classifications of refuge, methods of refuge, the precepts of refuge, and finally the benefits of refuge. We'll explain in 5 aspects. First, teaching the foundation of refuge. To take refuge, we must understand what the foundation of refuge is. Generally speaking, what opens the door to all righteous dharma is refuge. Venerable Atisha once said that non-Buddhists and Buddhists are distinguished by refuge. So if you want to enter Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings and Dharma treasury first, it is distinguished by refuge, not by other behaviors, dress, or other doctrines. The most fundamental distinction between Buddhist and non-Buddhist is also refuge. To open the door of refuge, one must rely on faith. Therefore, at the beginning of refuge, generating stable faith in one's mind stream is extremely important. So whether we take refuge or not depends on faith. Faith is very important. If there is no faith, although the qualities of the 3 jewels are infinite, it's impossible for oneself to benefit. If there is faith, the qualities of the 3 jewels can be naturally obtained. So faith is the root of everything. The Buddha said, all virtue has faith as its root. The way of the Bodhisattva states this. Our faith is the root of everything. The Sutra of Contemplation of the Mind Ground also seems to say entering the ocean of Buddha's Dharma requires faith as the foundation, crossing the river of birth and death requires precepts as the boat. That is to say, entering the great ocean of Buddha's Dharma requires the vessel of faith as the foundation. Without faith, there's no way to cross the great ocean. To cross the river of birth and death, we keep precepts. Precepts are like boats and rafts. This is also very important. Therefore, everyone should first know that we need faith. Faith is indeed very important. Worldly people also speak of faith. I saw a married couple arguing. One person was crying, saying, "You don't even have faith in me anymore. What's the meaning of my life now? You don't even have faith anymore." Here, faith probably means trust. Maybe it's mutual reliance or being trustworthy, impossible not to believe. But if there's no faith at all, they can't even continue living from its profound hidden meaning. Because faith is the root of all phenomena. If you have no faith in me, then not only as family members, even in the world, we can't continue living. So worldly people also consider faith very fundamental. Without faith, nothing can be accomplished successfully. So as Buddhists who have taken refuge in the Buddha's door, faith is very important. Some lay practitioners or monastics often reveal pure faith through their expressions, words, and behavior, having faith in the three jewels, having faith in the Guru. Everything becomes manageable. Moreover, people with faith receive the invisible, inconceivable blessings of the three jewels, which naturally integrate into their hearts. If our faith toward the Guru and three jewels has no reverence, joy, or faith at all, then there's no way to receive the qualities of the three jewels. For example, if a vessel is covered up, the moon's reflection or sunlight from the sky cannot appear inside, so we must never block the door of faith. This is particularly important. Faith is very important. Faith can be divided into three types: vivid faith, eager faith, and confident faith. First, let's explain vivid faith. What is vivid faith like? When entering a Buddha hall or shrine room with many Buddha statues, Dharma books, and stupas displayed, or seeing the faces of gurus, spiritual teachers, and great masters hearing about their great accomplishments and inspiring deeds relying on such circumstances, one can immediately think of their vast compassion and so forth. This kind of faith generated by pure mind is called vivid faith. Vivid faith, if you search for its source, is not very stable, but initially, at the beginning, extremely strong excitement arises in the mind, very excited. When you arrive at a Buddha hall and see many scriptures and majestic Buddha statues at that time, some people's tears cannot be stopped. Crying continuously in the shrine room, wanting to cry upon seeing Buddha statues, wanting to cry upon seeing sutras in front of stupas, also prostrating and crying. Why? This is vivid faith. Because relying on external conditions, vivid faith arises in the mind. Or when hearing about or seeing great masters, they start crying, "Wow, wow, I really can't bear to part from seeing you, O Guru, spiritual teacher. You are truly so compassionate. The more I look, the more I want to cry. The more I look, the more sad I become." This is also a kind of vivid faith, but this kind of faith is not necessarily very stable. People who love to cry, especially at the beginning, by the end don't want to cry anymore. Their tears have all dried up, completely cried out. After flowing all tears at once, there are no more to flow. This is also not very good. Actually, one should leave some room to occasionally cry a bit in the future, because they cried too much the first time. All tears have flowed out, there are no more to flow. This is vivid faith. The merit of vivid faith is also great. Previously, in the miscellaneous treasures Sutra, the Buddha also told this story. Once a young girl was traveling by carriage to the city. She happened to see the Buddha's supremely beautiful physical form. When she saw this by the roadside, she generated great joy. Then her carriage immediately moved aside to make way for the Buddha to pass. She generated joyful heart toward the Buddha by the roadside. Through this merit, after she died, she was reborn in the celestial realm. Later, many celestial beings asked what were the causes and conditions for coming to the celestial realm. At that time, the person who was formerly the young girl said, "I saw the Buddha entering the city, turned my carriage aside to avoid the road, generated joy and reverent faith at life's end, was born in heaven." Because at that time, seeing the Buddha, her heart was extremely joyful. And she generated reverence and pure heart, reverent heart. Through these causes and conditions, she was reborn in the celestial realm. She answered in verse form at that time. This is found in the Buddhist sutras. So ordinarily, even when just passing by, seeing some great masters, when some gurus come lining up on the side, playing some musical instruments, at such times I saw that day when our nun's shrine room was consecrated, when Lama Mumso was invited down at that time, many lay practitioners were crying below, continuously crying. They were crying from joy, not from great suffering, because that day there was nothing particularly sad. These tears should be tears of joy. We can say so. This is a kind of vivid faith. If you really ask for a reason you also don't know, this guru is very compassionate, this Buddha is very compassionate, this shrine room is too majestic, really want to cry. From the perspective of people who don't believe in Buddhism or other types of people, these people seem very foolish. Why cry so sadly upon seeing one person? It would be like this. But actually, this is in our own mind stream, a manifestation of virtue, an inspiration of virtue. So this is called vivid faith. This is also needed. Having no feelings at all, like a stone seeing Buddha statues or gurus, everything viewed with particularly dissatisfied, contemptuous eyes. In such cases, the blessings of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas and gurus cannot enter such a person's heart. So having the heart slightly moved is still necessary. Sometimes it seems, why are these people so excited? Why crying? Why sad? Why joyful? Some people, when seeing a guru holding flowers, start jumping up on the surface. Some people might think these people have mental problems. It could be like this. But actually, this is also a sign of their faith. This is called vivid faith. The second is eager faith. After hearing about the sufferings of lower realms, naturally generating an attitude of longing to escape. When we talk about the sufferings of the 6 realms of samsara, it's too frightening. I should obtain liberation from this. When you hear about the happiness of higher realms and liberation naturally generating a psychology of longing to obtain it, like when we talk about the pure land of great bliss, talking about qualities of liberation, naturally, I must be reborn in the pure Buddha field, such psychology. Once hearing about the qualities of virtuous dharma, generating the intention to want to practice after clearly seeing the faults of negative actions, also immediately generating determination to want to abandon them. This belongs to eager faith. Eager faith, compared to the previous vivid faith, still has improvement. Why? Because you already know the qualities of virtuous dharma. Originally, when you practiced virtuous dharma, you seemed not to know what the reasoning was. But now, after practicing virtuous dharma, there are benefits. Liberation will be obtained. If negative karma is created afterward, then truly liberation cannot be attained. So, in one's mind stream, taking refuge in the 3 jewels should have reasons. The Sutra of the Compendium of Essential Teachings also seems to say, if a person's mind is pure and constantly reveres all Buddhas, they obtain supreme auspiciousness and are freed from all fears. This reasoning is already very clear. If some people in their hearts already understand the qualities of the 3 jewels, then constantly rely on them, revere them, prostrate to them. Afterward, on one hand, they obtain the most supreme auspiciousness or happiness. Taking refuge in the 3 jewels brings qualities and benefits. On the other hand, they are freed from all fears, whether worldly humans and non-humans or earth, water, fire, and wind. In all aspects, all fears from sentient and insentient beings are removed. This kind of refuge still has great differences from the previous refuge. We all know the particularly joyful and excited mental state subsides very quickly. Just like when we have a cold and fever, that kind of heat arises very quickly. When it subsides, it also quickly disappears. But another type is different with eager faith. They still know qualities and know faults. Oneself generates a kind of intention to abandon negative karma, intention to practice virtuous dharma. I see in the meeting of father and son also teaches, if the assembly hears what the Buddha taught and generates pure faith and decisive understanding in their hearts. The meaning is, if we understand what the Buddha taught, generating a kind of decisive faith, diligently practice excellent conduct heading toward Bodhi, transcending the ocean of samsaric birth and death, if one generates genuine decisive faith in all dharmas taught by the Buddha, then one will diligently practice excellent dharma and proceed toward Bodhi, transcending the great ocean of samsaric birth and death without difficulty. Therefore, the power of eager faith far exceeds the previous vivid faith. So I hope everyone here must first emphasize having faith. If you don't even have faith, you don't have a ticket, you can't enter the movie theater. The exciting movie theater of the Three Jewels is impossible. The door is already blocked, impossible. Can we say blocked? Having this faith, faith has two levels. The first level is vivid faith. The second level is eager faith. Of course, the best is what we'll discuss next, which is confident faith, irreversible faith, as follows. Confident faith, after understanding the uncommon qualities and blessings of the three jewels, generating faith and understanding from the depths of one's heart, knowing that at all times the undeceiving refuge is the three jewels, thinking that whether in suffering or happiness, sickness or pain, birth or death in any matter, the undeceiving refuge, the three jewels, will know. Apart from the three jewels, oneself has no other place of dependence, no reliable support to count on. This kind of unwavering faith is called confident faith. So this kind of confident faith is truly particularly precious. You first, through certain study and contemplation, will gradually understand that in this world, those who possess all qualities are the guru and three jewels. After you completely understand this reasoning from the depths of your heart, from within your heart, this kind of faith generated toward them that is not easy to diminish. We often say faith arising from the heart, faith arising from the bone marrow, not superficial, faith arising on the skin level, not like this. It should be said to be this kind of faith from within the heart. This kind of faith, whether in this life or throughout all lifetimes, whether I'm suffering or happy, I entrust my everything completely to you. Just like an orphan finding someone to help them, then this orphan's everything is completely entrusted to this person in this world we live in. All qualities completely come from, should be said, taking refuge in the three jewels, the object of refuge in the three jewels. Other than this, in the world there is no other refuge. Previously, in Buddhist sutras, it should be in the Dhammapada. It teaches there was a place that was a non-Buddhist country. This non-Buddhist country believed in Brahma. Later, the entire country didn't have even a drop of rain for 3 years. Then the king and many others requested Brahmins to solve this great matter. These Brahmins, after making observations, they said we should make vast sacrificial offerings, apparently 20 carts worth of wood, offerings, and so forth. Then among them arranged 7 people. These 7 people, through burning, would be sent to the celestial realm to inquire about the cause of the drought. When the time came, all matters arranged by the king were completely prepared. All people gathered in one place, making vast sacrificial offerings, requesting these 7 people to immediately be placed in the fire. At the same time, many people surrounded them. They also brought out various musical instruments in the sound of this music, letting them leave the world. These 7 people, of course, when their physical bodies suffered burning by flames, the suffering was unbearable. Then they said in their hearts, if in this world there is one person who can relieve our suffering, then we will take refuge in him from the depths of our hearts. After praying like this, the Buddha appeared before them at that time. At that time, the Buddha also spoke a verse. This verse is quite long. Originally, it's found in the auto-commentary on the treasury of Abhidharma, saying, "Many take refuge in mountains, rivers, and tree spirits, establishing images and praying for blessings." The meaning is that when many people take refuge, some take refuge in mountains and rivers, some in tree spirits, some in painted images, praying to these to protect and bless themselves. Taking refuge like this is neither auspicious nor supreme. They cannot liberate you from the multitude of sufferings. It says this kind of refuge is actually not a superior kind of refuge. They fundamentally cannot rescue you from suffering. There's another section of text in the middle that I can't remember. At the end it says, taking refuge in the 3 jewels is most auspicious and supreme. Only this can liberate from all suffering. Yushi doesn't mean meat. When saying yushi, it seems many people in northeast China say, I don't eat you, I don't eat meat. Only this can liberate from all suffering. If one takes refuge in the three jewels, then one can be liberated from all suffering. After the Buddha finished speaking this verse, all the fires were completely extinguished. The 7 people from before were rescued, then rain fell from the sky. Later, all the non-Buddhist kings, ministers, and common people took refuge in the Buddha. Quite many of them also attained noble fruition. This verse, I remember Master Rongzom Pandita previously quoted it in Entering the Way of the Great Vehicle. Also, many great masters from Tibetan areas and Han regions I see, a forest of pearls from the Dharma garden, also quoted it. But the versions quoted are somewhat different, so this verse is very important. The meaning is in this world. Some take refuge in humans, some in non-humans, some in mountains and rivers. There are many objects of refuge, but these are all not ultimate refuge. The sole refuge should be the 3 jewels with Buddha as the main one. The Sutra of the Woman with the Name of Attained Taintlessness also seems to have similar teachings. There is no other refuge that can save and protect sentient beings. Only Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the 3 jewels, can save and protect. We should constantly recite these verses all the time. Everyone should know this. Only Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the 3 jewels, can save and protect. Every Buddhist should have this awareness, have this intention. Always possessing such an attitude should be considered taking refuge. Otherwise, I think in the world sometimes people take refuge in this, take refuge in that, especially when encountering adverse conditions and suffering. At such times they take refuge in everything. Of course, such dependence by non-Buddhists is also a normal phenomenon. I saw someone called a recent news item about Vivos, an American person who built a Doomsday Bunker. What does he mean by this? Because a year or 2 ago, America made a rather famous movie called 2012. After which everyone was in a state of panic later to relieve this kind of terror, they built doomsday bunkers. What is a doomsday bunker like? It's said to be 9 meters deep underground, making something equivalent to a basement underground palace. Very safe. So how is it safe? If a magnitude 10 earthquake occurs, it won't destroy their houses. It's said that even if 677-degree fires appear, they won't be burned. Also, if floods occur for 500 hours, they won't wash away their houses. Also, for example, nuclear weapons and biochemical weapons cannot penetrate such a very safe bunker, but this kind of housing is limited. Before December 21st, 2012, all the construction work must be completed, everything built must be finished, but it can only shelter 4,000 people inside. One person needs to pay $50,000 US. It's said inside there are things like broadband internet, treadmills, and some food. Everything is complete. For 1 year, stored food should have no problems. Their arrangement is that for 1 year, any external disasters of earth, water, fire, and wind cannot penetrate. So many people from America and other Western countries are registering one after another. It's said now, over 1,000 have already registered. Money has all been paid. But there are still over 3,000 more. After it's full, you won't be able to enter even if you want to. So some of you might want to avoid 2012 before December 21st entering this underground palace to safely spend a period of time. But I think this is rather ignorant. If the entire world has truly been completely destroyed, living there for a year would also be useless. After it's over, there would be nothing to eat or live in. But this is also impossible, so some worldly people rely on mountains, some rely on water, some rely on other deities to save and protect themselves. Buddhists who truly take refuge with devotion should stay away from all doubt and pray with single-pointed mind. Then this would be the true object of refuge. We understand the reasoning. It's not that others say the Buddha is remarkable. The power of the 3 jewels is excellent. So we also follow them in taking refuge. It's not like this. Through our own study and contemplation, like after we studied the chapter of valid cognition, we know the Bhagavan is a genuine valid cognizer. After we studied the Noble Sutra of recalling the 3 jewels, we know the qualities of the 3 jewels are inconceivable. Such refuge can be considered genuine refuge. The Sutra on the Mahayana principle of the 6 paramitas also has similar teachings. Only Buddha Bhagavan. Bhagavan in Tibetan is Chomdende, Son of Wisdom, Great Holy Being, can destroy our doubts, true refuge. That is to say, only the Buddha is actually the Son of Wisdom, the Holy Being of Wisdom. He can truly destroy all our wrong knowledge, wrong views, doubts, ignorance, and so forth. Then this is our true refuge. But how many people in this world understand this principle? Therefore, sometimes we see, even if you've already taken refuge, having had refugee certificates for over 10 years, but your faith in the Buddha has still not arisen in your heart. It's only superficial. Comparing the Buddha with ordinary worldly earth gods and heavenly kings still can't distinguish clearly. If asked to choose, might choose the earth god. Such faith, such refuge is called similar refuge. We very much hope each person should have, perhaps at the beginning it's pure refuge, but by the end truly becoming irreversible or confident faith refuge, and also making great contributions to spreading Dharma and benefiting beings. Previously, there was someone called King Kanishka, a king after India's Mauryan dynasty recorded in many histories. At the beginning he particularly loved hunting. Once when he went to the mountains to hunt, he saw a small white rabbit. Then he prepared to shoot an arrow at it, chasing and chasing. Finally, the little white rabbit disappeared. In front he saw a shepherd boy making earth stupas. He asked, "What are you doing here?" Because the white rabbit had just run away, he happened to see this. This child said, "Once there was a Buddha Shakyamuni. He prophesied that in the future an evil king would come to this place. If this person can build my stupa, he will make contributions to the Dharma in the future." After saying this, both the white rabbit and child disappeared. The king generated vivid faith and joy. He felt Buddha Shakyamuni was truly remarkable, having even, "Since there's such a thing, I want to begin working to propagate the Dharma." Later, he put down his weapons and began inviting monastics from various places to the palace to recite scriptures. When reciting scriptures, each sutra had different masters to recite. When they recited and explained to him, their methods of explanation were all different. Later, there was a locally famous master called Parshva. We mentioned before that he lived in his mother's womb for 60 years when he was born. His hair was already white. "Doesn't India have such a particularly miraculous elder?" He asked him. What was the reason? He said, "This is because the Buddha's parinirvana was already 500 years ago." Now, the major schools, Theravada, Mahasanghika, various sects, are all not very harmonious. Now, we should invite these masters to conduct the fourth council. The fourth council would make contributions to Buddhism. Later, the king invited many great masters. Especially, he invited some noble ones, those who had attained arhathood and above, after inviting them to conduct the council. Apparently, there were 499 people. There was someone called Bodhisattva Vasumitra, who came down to serve as the presiding seat. At that time, they compiled what is the Abhidharma Mahavibhasa Shastra. The Abhidharma Mahavibhasa Shastra, some histories say it was compiled by 500 noble ones. There is also such an explanation. So here the fourth council was completely conducted, especially in the history of Northern Buddhism. This is quite clear. So from this story we can also see that at the beginning he had a kind of curiosity toward Buddha, or a kind of pure faith, but later he truly, as a king, put down all his affairs completely and worked diligently to propagate the Dharma. So many Dharma friends here may at the beginning, when seeing the Guru or seeing the three jewels, also won't understand the reasoning within. It's just induced by one's own conditions and faith. But later, through one's own study and contemplation, truly understanding the qualities of the three jewels. This is called unwavering confident faith. Padmasambhava also said, having firm faith receives blessings if free from doubt, wishes are fulfilled. If one has firm faith, one will receive blessings. If one is free from doubt, whatever practice is done free from doubt, all one's wishes can be accomplished. The Sutra Lankara also seems to teach, if with deep faith one pays homage to the Buddha's feet, this person in birth and death will not remain long. If from within the heart with deep faith one reveres the Buddha and reveres the three jewels, such a person even dwelling in samsaric birth and death won't be for a very long time. So this point is very important. We here all consider ourselves Buddhists, but whether we truly have such confident faith in our hearts is very important. Faith is like a seed. It can give rise to all virtuous qualities and merits. If one doesn't possess faith, then it's like a seed that has been completely burned by fire. As the sutra also says, people without faith do not generate virtuous dharmas. Like seeds burned by fire, how can green sprouts arise? People without faith cannot generate all virtuous dharmas, just like if seeds have already been completely burned by fire. How can these blue or green seeds arise? Actually, I don't know what source Patrul Rinpoche used for this scriptural citation. I see in the Chinese Sutra of the Great Heap of Jewels, volume 28, the words are basically the same as this scriptural citation. If people without faith do not generate white dharmas, like burned seeds, they do not generate roots, sprouts, etc. So is the source the Sutra of the Great Heap of Jewels. It should be, probably is what I just quoted is the Chinese translation, which should be very similar to the Tibetan translation. So I myself developed faith in my own translation. Just joking, is that so? Really? I was joking. Are you also joking? Furthermore, faith also occupies the first position among the 7 noble riches. As it says, faith is like a precious wheel, day and night, cultivating the virtuous path. Faith is like a precious wheel. The precious wheel is the most important among the 7 treasures. So relying on faith, one can practice virtue day and night. This is the meaning. So faith is foremost among all treasures. Faith is like a treasure. It's an inexhaustible source of merit. The Flower Ornament Sutra also teaches this way. Faith is the treasure, the foremost dharma, like pure hands receiving all practices. Faith is treasure, the foremost dharma. It's like hands that can hold all things. Faith is the source of the path, mother of merit, increasing all virtuous dharmas. This is also from the Flower Ornament Sutra. Faith is like 2 feet, able to step onto the path of liberation. Faith is also like 2 hands, able to gather all virtuous dharmas into one's mind stream. As the verse says, faith, wealth, treasure, supreme feet, like 2 hands gathering virtuous roots. Faith can gather all virtuous roots, so all our merits are obtained through faith, although the 3 jewels possess inconceivable compassion and blessings, but to integrate these into one's mind stream depends solely on one's own faith and reverence. The inconceivable qualities of the 3 jewels all depend on one's own faith and reverence. If one possesses superior faith and reverence, then what can one obtain? The compassion and blessings of the Guru and 3 jewels are also superior. I've often quoted this sentence before. Everyone must understand. The blessings of the Guru and 3 jewels are superior blessings. You can only receive them if you have superior faith and reverence. If one possesses middling faith and reverence, then the compassion and blessings received are also middling. If one only possesses inferior faith and reverence, then one can only obtain a little blessing and compassion. If one fundamentally has no faith and reverence, then it's absolutely impossible to receive the compassion and blessings of the Guru and 3 jewels. I hope everyone will always remember this point. Sometimes we blame heaven and others. What's wrong? I pray every day. But perhaps you pray with your mouth, you prostrate with your body, but the faith in your heart is still insufficient. If your faith is not sufficient, the incomparable qualities, compassion and blessings of the Guru and 3 jewels you may not necessarily be able to obtain. So we must find ways to enhance our faith. I think for faith to increase, mainly listening to the Dharma is very important. If one constantly has faith in the noble Dharma, then hearing the Buddha's teaching is without satiation. This is taught in the Flower Ornament Sutra. If you want your faith to increase, you should listen to the Dharma without satiation. If one hears the Buddha's teaching without satiation, that person's faith in Dharma is inconceivable. This is taught in the Flower Ornament Sutra. If this person continuously listens to the Dharma without weariness, without satiation, without satisfaction, always wanting to hear Dharma every day, then their faith will increase and inconceivable qualities will appear. Previously in the treatise on the great perfection of wisdom, there was a celestial being called Hand Householder. Why was he reborn in the celestial realm? Later it was said there were 3 reasons. The first reason, he made offerings to the Buddha without weariness. The second reason, he listened to the Dharma without weariness. Third, he made offerings to the Sangha without weariness. I remember there's such a story in the treatise on the great perfection of wisdom. So, through what method can we enhance our faith? I think everyone should continuously study, contemplate, and practice. Because as we understand the truth of the Dharma more and more, our faith will definitely increase more and more. If we set the Dharma aside and throw it behind our minds, then it would be difficult to maintain faith in our mind stream for long. So everyone must generate such faith. Let's stop here today.
Kirgana jirano chupai Chupun solen droa droa sho
Bandarangara Badna Asadorda Bandarangara Badna Asadorda Bandarangara Badna Asadorda